Thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me today, and also for organizing this seminar. It's very important to me and also to all the colleagues in the Commission who will be implementing this agreement, have been for the past 25 years and will continue to do so, that we understand from our both perspectives how we see this agreement functioning, but also what our priorities are. Because I think this is about an agreement that needs to work, but it also needs to live with its age. And we hope that this provides the right basis for that. That's what we've seen over the past 2 years, and that's what I wanted to say perhaps as the one message is this is an agreement that is working, and we need to make sure that it continues to deliver for all the citizens of our 30 countries who participate actually in this one market. But it's not only in one market, it's one space where they move freely and they benefit from anything from education to research, also to just being able to move around. So if I'm very happy to follow suit on my co-chair in the joint committee. They were very grateful in ensuring a seamless transition from the European External Action Service to the Commission Secretariat. But on the EU side, you will see that hopefully we speak the same voice because it's an organizational, but the commitment decision, but the commitment is there. What it does help is it brings it a bit closer to where the heart of the EEA agreement is. It's internal market, it's all these flanking policies, and they sit mostly within the Commission. And so we thought it was a good idea to bring it closer. We do not replace Director Generals. That's very important because they are the ones who really will make this agreement live. We're there to help, and I think, as you mentioned, to make sure that the EEA reflex is there at all times, and that this agreement is fully integrated in the reflections of the Commission when it devises policies, when it also negotiates with the co-legislators, and also when it implements these agreements going forward. So I think it bears just recalling how special this relationship is. We've seen it over the years because we've also developed a relationship with other very close partners on the European continent. And if you look at the other relationships we have, whether it be with Switzerland, with other 3 countries with whom we're negotiating an association agreement, or with the United Kingdom, with which we developed also a model of cooperation. There was always the EEA as an example, as a model, not necessarily one which was replicable or replicated, but as something which was special. And I think probably it was a good time when people rediscovered the beauty of that agreement that actually functions. So for us, this agreement will remain a model, not a model that's necessarily replicable, but one which we are happy to nurture going forward. As you mentioned, we were able to also deal with the challenges of the COVID-19 crisis. This has been a challenge even within the European Union. So it's also good that we were able to take also the EEA on board. There will always be periods of adjustment, but hopefully now we are in a space where we have been able to show that we want to make our EEA internal market work just as well as the EU's internal market. So we also have some shared priorities. This is the recovery, it's a Green Deal, it's also strategic autonomy, issues which we have enshrined also in our EEA Council conclusions, matters which will of course require that in the nitty-gritty of the daily implementation, and also incorporation of any developments, but also in the decision shaping. I think that's, I agree that there's certainly a very valuable contribution that the EFTA states can make to developing the most up-to-date and efficient legislation. We want to make sure that we can have something that works politically, but also works technically. And the agreement is an agreement which is complex, but it's okay. We're the EU. We know complex. We have quite a few layers. We're actually even more member states than in the EFTA states. So we surely are happy to take up that challenge. What I wanted to say also is maybe highlight a number of these files which we were able to close over the past years and months. Important files such as the tobacco directive package, the organics production. It looks very technical, but sometimes these very technical issues take time. It is important that we make sure that the level playing field is maintained without too much delay. We will be looking at the way we work on our side to make the incorporation as swiftly as possible. And in that, we're looking very much forward to working with the colleagues in the EFTA Secretariat as we look at our own procedures, also making sure that we can together deliver what is purely technical we do, and we process in the most automatic way. And where there need for policy discussions, political decision, policy discussion, that we have the time to reflect about those and are not just administrating an agreement, but also shaping how that agreement works and can work going forward. And this is the challenge from this dynamic takeover. Dynamic means that it needs to be quite close to any changes that take place. Dynamic means also it needs to take into account the new developments, and where we can, we have new policies which are being developed, new ways of functioning within the union. We have decentralized quite a bit to agencies. We also need to take this reality into account, but also what will be something which is very important for the EU is making sure that the balance of rights and obligation remains properly reflected. We have agreements which have their very own function, this two-pillar structure, which to some extent mirrors what we do on the EU side. Once again, it's not an easy structure, but it's not because it's a bit more complicated that it cannot work. We're trying to make it work on a daily basis on the EU side. So we're happy to help also on your side where you think that is helpful. Maybe one last word, I think, to come on to thank actually the colleagues in the EFTA Secretariat and also in the EAS for helping us in this transition, because we, as I said, it's the incorporation, I think, last year of over 360 acts, joint committee decision covering 600 acts of EU legislation. And more is to come this year. That's also our hope, that we will be able to incorporate even more. Not making a promise, but hopefully we can do that together. We are lining up our machinery to make sure that we can resorb the backlog that has been accumulating, and also that we can focus on the priorities. And that's really the two things we really are looking at. So once again, thank you very much, and happy to take any questions you might have.
Questions from the audience, maybe? Actually, I got a question myself, because I got a question from the press last week or something, and that was I forwarded that to your office. I don't know what happened to it actually, but the question was about whether there was any whether the reason for the transfer from the EES to the Secretariat General was any complexity in the files or something like that. Was that the reason behind it? I just said you have to ask the Commission. So.
Thank you, and sorry if I didn't not answer because I didn't want to answer. I think I don't want to speculate what the reason was for that. I think the way I see it is it makes an awful lot of sense because the EEA agreement is essentially an extension of our internal market and our flanking policies and our policies, which are very close to what the Commission does on a daily basis. That is something which fits very well into a Commission structure, and particularly in the Secretary General, which is used to precisely coordinating the position. Because I think the risk is having something which is entirely decentralized. I wouldn't say it's a risk, but you can have a model in which it's completely decentralized, and in which then you don't have these antennas for the is this EEA relevant, or should I be having my EEA antennas on? And what is this approach that we're taking in this sector, which is a new sector? Have we done something similar in the past that we could take inspiration from, or should we see if we can do things a bit differently? And having a coordinating structure at the level of the Secretary General, which is used to dealing with precisely these types of issues, I think is certainly a very good idea. Now, it's quite exceptional, because there are very few partners with whom we actually have such a unit that is there to coordinate. Because usually this dealt with by the EES, which has absolutely its important role of external representation, and also by the Directorate Generals, who are the ones who know best how their agreements work. But the EEA agreement is not a suite of different agreements. It's one agreement that has a structure, has a logic, and we need to make sure that we apply it in a coherent manner. So that, I think, is the logic and the way I take it from here.
Thank you. Any question from the audience? Yes, over here. Can you introduce yourself first? Thank you.
So good morning. My name is Marcus. Now I'm Joseph. I work for the After Surveillance Authority. Many thanks for your presentation. I thought it was very informative. I do have Mr. Schaufhauser. Your presentation focused on, I think, the challenges and the priorities for the second half of 2022. And I was wondering whether you could speak a little bit about the opportunities that there could be in the second half of 2022. We sit today, I think we're almost coming out now of the COVID pandemic era, and we're sitting here in this building, which is the house. So many of us here, I think, in this room work for one of the family organisations inside of the EEA After Family, so the FMO, the ESSA, or the Secretariat. And there seems to be here a kind of a momentum a little bit towards collaborating more, particularly between those different bodies. And I was wondering whether that could mean that there was more of an ability for us to collaborate more closely as those three organisations. And for example, things like perhaps having a single ombudsman, if there was a single ombudsman where people could come with any issues that they would have in relation to any three of those bodies, or so if there was any kind of initiatives that would bind together and allow a closer collaboration between the family organisations. I think that's clear.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And yes, I did focus on the well, I don't think much on challenges, but on what we're planning to do, and I see that also as opportunities. So we would like to do all of this what I mentioned, and I'm so happy to hear that I think we are also like-minded and aligned on this. Now, on the what I did not mention is some of the elements how we would like to do it, and one of them is exactly the building we are here. The EFTA House that brings together the three organizations after many years of separate housing is, of course, a center in the EEA cooperation here in Brussels, which we would like to use. And I think it was mentioned in one of the earlier interventions that there's also the idea of inviting colleagues here, also from EU institutions and others, to learn more exactly in this outreach, to get to know the EEA, to get to know the people, which is something I think which is important now after 2 years locked away somewhere. In my case, it was mainly a basement. That's where my home office was. To be able to be out soon, maybe even with masks also not on when you're not speaking. So I think we'll have these opportunities of this interaction, and this house, this building with its marvelous rooms and conference center will obviously be a cornerstone for such outreach activities. Now, the other point you mentioned is obviously speaking from member state point, the fact that we got the 3 organizations to move together here has a lot of potential also in synergies. Some have already been achieved, some are obvious, some will develop over time. But this being together and meeting each other when the home office is mandatory home office is abolished, which I think is tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So if people are here and meet, that this will foster a cooperation and working together. On your specific point on the ombudsman, I think the EFTA House, yes, we are the member states, but it's the 3 organizations. You are the tenants, you live together. So I think we are obviously very open to proposals from you. I'm very happy if more collaboration and synergies materialize, and we're asking for that on a regular basis. But I think the first step is the ones on the floor, on the ground, is the 3 organizations. I think you know very well what is good, what works, what should be established, and certainly not a roadblock on such a path. But very happy to see more and more cooperation between the 3 of you and us, and because this is how we proceed in the best way possible.
Thank you, and we have a couple of questions in the chat. I guess it doesn't really say if it's to whom of you it is, but I guess it's to you, Pascal. To speed up incorporation of acts, why not simply extend the right of decision taking with the obligation that if a yes vote for the 3 EFTA states, the act is immediately incorporated?
Wonder why we haven't come up with that idea yet.
What great idea.
Well, actually, I think the first part is exactly how it works. You know, you need a yes from the 3 EFTA states to incorporate it, but there is a bit more attached just because me and my colleagues in the standing committee, and then together with the EU side in the joint committee, say yes, the act might be incorporated, but it's not applied, it's not implemented in the member states, and that needs work, time. It needs to be transferred into national rules, national laws, and so on. And I mean, if we had a magic wand, we could say yes and do all of that, we would certainly do it, but we're still searching for that.
Actually, we will after this have a better presentation on how EU law becomes EEA law and the national parliaments, for instance, play a role. There is a question here that, yes, I guess it's for you as well, Pascal. Does the special solution designed, well, actually, you could comment on it as well. The special solution designed for Liechtenstein in the EEA Agreement, which restricts the 4 freedoms, namely the freedom of movement, pave the way for a more flexible integration for 3rd countries in the future. Could more countries enjoy the same? Maybe we could take it as well.
Should I start?
Yes.
I say it's a very special solution for a very special situation that was recognized in 1985. I think this goes to the core of what the internal market is. It's a special regarding free movement of persons. as you will. This is really quite existential for the EU. This is really a core element of of how we perceive the internal market. It's about the four freedoms fitting together. One freedom doesn't work as well if you cherry pick or if you just take some aspects of it. And this is also the entire principle of the EEA agreement, that normally everything is supposed to be incorporation of the rules. We can, in the process of incorporation, look for special arrangements where there are special situations, and we have a number of those over the years. And because this is part of an exchange on that specific act once, and then we see. Now, sometimes we see that we're still negotiating adjustments to one act, and the EU has, in the meantime, moved to another act in the same area, which is a bit more either more constraining or goes in a different direction. So it's a bit of a challenge if every time you have to renegotiate what actually has been agreed by 27 member states and which will apply in 27 member states to renegotiate this at a later stage. So obviously you will see it's fairly uncomfortable. It creates a situation where you don't have necessarily the same rules, which is not the principle on which the single market is based. Now, so this is, I would say, the normal business of incorporation in the EU. Then there might be some, I would say, special arrangements. But again, I think this is linked to the very specific nature recognized at the time. And we need to take it really on a case-by-case basis, but with, I would say, the lens or the goggles, because it's February, with which we'll be looking at those questions are these principles.
Any add to this, Oscar?
Not to the, it paves the way for the future, but just one comment. I think the question was a bit strongly phrased. I would have to say that Liechtenstein does not, special solution does not deviate from freedom. I mean, basically, the free movement of workers is, as it used to be, free movement of persons is applied. Human citizenship directive is applied. Everything is there. It was, as Nicolas said, at the time there was a discussion on the size, and already Liechtenstein having a small population, small territory, and already a lot of foreign nationals living there. So there was a mechanism found that not everyone can come and take up residence there, but there is a limitation. There's a constant increase, minimum increase of 2% if you count it all together. In reality, it's more because you have the families, you have replacements and so on. So it's a couple of hundred EU citizens every year, which is quite a few percentages increase. That is a minimum agreed, but there is no restrictions or anything on taking up a job in Liechtenstein. So this is open to all EU EEA nationals, and if you're ever there, you will see we have many EU nationals working in Liechtenstein, also in sectors and administration parts which are in most countries restricted to nationals.
Thank you. Maybe one last question before we end the session. What Mr. von Lingen maybe has talked about it already, but the question came after that. Is the relocation of the EEA files an indication that the EU will be giving greater priority to the good functioning of the EEA agreement?
Greater than what? Make the EEA great again? I think that's already a great agreement. As I explained, I think it's bringing it closer to where it's actually being managed. If you want to put the EES is very good and has been set up as the external representation and to deal with the political relations, to deal with CFSP and multilateral engagement with our third country partners. The EEA is a third country relationship, but I think to take the words of I'm not even sure I want to use second country,
But if you want to use another, it's very close. It's very close to what we do. So, and I think it's part of this reflex when we think about developing something at EU level for the 27 member states. What does it mean, or how can we also project it in our space, in our internal market, which has 30 countries, not only 27. So I think it's that what it represents, and that's I don't want to say what it represents, but how we're going to make it work, because that's what matters. Is how we're going to make this work for the next 25 years.
At least, yes. So, any further comments? Or? So, thank you so much, both of you. Maybe we'll So now I have to log on to.